This is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at FIT. This tutorial is for drafting or basic rhino, either one. Going to be drawing a round brilliant diamond 10 millimeters as a technical drawing assignment. Usual form, we will set out main construction lines across 0, 0. Okay, so just drew a straight line going each direction, holding down my shift key to constrain ortho. Going to start by drawing circles. These are once again construction lines to help us lay out our stones. Top view. We'll do the top view first, since that is the most important view for understanding the cut of the stone. So, circle center radius. Center of the circle is 0. We want it to be diameter instead of radius, so click on diameter. Type 10. Going to draw another circle for the center of the stone. The table, shouldn't say the center, the table of the stone. Table of the stone is 53% of the girdle. So I'm going to copy that. Origin point, once again, 0. Scale factor is going to be 0.53. Copy equals yes. And I need another construction line halfway between the two. In order to locate that construction line, I'm going to draw a circle diameter right here. And I can use intersector quadrant to draw that circle. And I'll use the center of that circle, an object snap grabbing the center of it, to plot this next construction line. Offset, through point, center snap, touch the edge of the circle, so it pulls to the center, delete. And those are our 3 construction circles for drawing our stone. We're going to divide these with 16 points going all the way around. Okay? So I'm going to go to Transform menu, tab. On the toolbar menu, going to cascade the point toolbar. Going to right click on divide curve. If we left click, you see the tooltip. If you left click, it's divide by length. We don't want that. We want divide by number of segments, which is right click. Check that the seam is straight and that it's located on one of the quadrants, either 12, 3, 6, or 9 o'clock. It is, so we're going to accept it. Enter. Number of segments it's asking for. Remember the blinking light in Rhino, the blinking bar is a question mark, so it's number of segments, question mark. Type in 16, and we're good. Alright, that gives us our starting point for our final drawing of the top view. Going to draw my girdle now, using point snap and a polycurve tool. Just picking every point all the way around the outer circle or girdle of the stone. Okay. We're going to do the same thing for the table starting at 12 o'clock, but we're going to skip every other point to give us the 8-sided table facet. Okay, now I'm going to draw our star facets, starting once again at 12 o'clock, and reaching out and catching every other point on our mid-reference curve. bezel facets, starting once again at 12 o'clock, this time on the girdle, skipping every other point. And the final step for drawing the stone is to draw the dividing lines on our upper girdle facets. Now there is an alternative to doing that. Instead of drawing each one, I can just draw the first one here and do the transform. Use the button that looks like a color wheel, polar array, center of array 0, or the center of the grid, number of items 8, enter, accept 360, and enter one more time to accept. And that will place them all the way around. Okay? So, we no longer need our construction lines. Going to lock the white layer. Select the construction lines we've made so far. Change them to the dark green layer and lock it. Okay, so we have our top view drawn. Now I'm going to draw the bottom view. We're going to draw it directly above. Okay, I'm going to borrow the girdle from the top view. Transform tab, copy. I'll use grid snap, S enter, or I can click on grid snap right here. Click on one grid intersection and then click on the next one up. Since these grids are exactly 10 millimeters apart, it will place these girdles touching each other, which is not the most aesthetic or pleasing arrangement for a drawing, but it will work for our purposes, so it's fine. The Q-lid of our pavilion on our bottom view is located right there at that grid intersection. Okay, going to draw our main facets, but before we can do that, we need to establish once again a midpoint, a mid-reference curve. I'm going to do that this time by drawing a straight line from grid snap, turned off grid snap, so I can grab endpoint. There. Draw a circle, construction line, from the end of that curve to the middle of that curve. Alright. And this will need to be divided into 16. We already have that out here. Right click, make sure the seam is at one of the quadrants, which it is, and 16. Okay. I'm going to start by drawing our main facets. And we'll only draw one. We need end snap and point snap. When you're going to draw, it's always good to think to yourself, which constraints do I need? Do I need object snaps? Do I need grid snaps? Do I need orthographic, holding down the shift key snap? Do I need to type in a dimension snap? Do I need to type in a degree constraint? Think ahead as to what kind of constraints you want to apply to your cursor as you're drawing. We are going to apply end and point. End, point, end, point, end. Okay. Going to array that polar. Once again, the color wheel looking button. Center. Pick the endpoint. We can't type 0 now because the center of this drawing is not at 0. It's here at this grid intersection. We could use grid snap, but we actually have a point and an end of a line here we can choose. and number of items is still 8. It remembers the last integer that was entered. Angle to fill 360, and press enter to accept. And those are our main facets. Last thing to be drawn will be the dividing line between our lower girdle facets. And that's right there. We'll repeat the array polar. Center is once again in the middle, using the end snap. 8, 360, enter to accept. I'll go ahead and change the active layer so I can lock the white layer, just so I can select those construction curves and once again put them to the used or storage curves layer. So there's our top and bottom views of our round brilliant stone. Okay. I have a point in the middle I can remove. Don't need that anymore. I guess I don't. I guess I... Oh, that was... okay, that's because that is now on that. No, it's because I locked it, that's why. I thought I could see it. There we go. Alright, now it's time to do the draft of our front view of our stone. Since the front view and the side views will be the same, we'll only draw one more secondary view, or third view I guess you'd call it in this case. I'm going to offset this construction line. Through point, grid snap for the girdle line of our front view. I'm going to draw the outline of our stone from the front first. So I'm going to bring down information from the top view to the front that will help me draw that. Offsetting. Notice as long as grid snap is on, it's very hard for me to do anything that's not on a grid. So unless you're going to use grid snap, deactivate it. I want to grab the full width of the stone on both sides. I want to grab the width of the table. And since it's symmetrical, I can use the both sides option. B enter. So that's everything I can bring down for the basic shape of the stone. Now I want to create the dimensions for the construction lines for the pavilion depth and crown height. Pavilion depth is 43%, which for a 10 millimeter stone, we just move the decimal point. It's 4.3. Type that in. Hit enter. Or actually don't hit enter. You click to the side you want. We want below. Same thing for the crown height. Going to offset it, and we need it 16%. So type in 1.6 millimeters. Pull to the side we want and click. Okay. And now I will use intersect, object snap, and a polyline to draw the outline of my stone. I will also draw the girdle line. Okay. I want to bring down the detailed faceting now for the crown of the stone. Just cleaning up a little bit. Okay. I need an elevation line in the front view that indicates where the hips of these bezel facets are going to fall. So I will take my vertical construction line, offset it through point, and grab that hip line, that hip point. And I will offset a horizontal construction line section here. So now we have the elevation line that we need to bring down the information for our star facets. Our star facets have two aspects. They have the top, or the cleft, which is formed by the shape of the table facet, and their points. We need both pieces of information brought down. Okay, so we have two of the clefts already in place. This one and this one. We use them to delineate the widest point of our table, so we won't need to bring those down again. The edge of our table will suffice for that. Just tidying up a little bit so it doesn't get confusing. So, going to do the clefts first. Like I said, the outermost cleft we already have. The next cleft over would be this one here. The center cleft we have, because it's in line with our center line of our drawing. Grab this one, and once again we don't need that one, it's already over there. To make it easy to understand, I will use the table of my stone to trim those curves off, except for, of course, the center line, because that's our main construction line. Now I need to have the points for my star facets. Well, the first points I already have to the side. They're the ones that delineated the full distance across and allowed us to establish this elevation. So where the elevation line meets the plane of the side of the stone is where those points are located. But we have a number of other points, so we'll go plot those. We have this point, and we have this point. Okay, now once we come to this point, we are back to here again. So we really only have the two. And I'll trim those off below that midline so it's clear what it is we're working with. And then I will begin to draw. Polyline. Okay. This first point, this first star facet, okay, we can see where its cleavage is. Here, it's cleft. And we can see where the point goes. It comes all the way down to there. The next one over, cleft, point, cleft, point, cleft, point, and then cleft back up to here again. So that gives us our star facets. Now to draw the points of our bezels. We already have the hips of our bezels. They're right here. We have 3 bezel facets we can see. These bezel facets are on the straight side view. They are this plane, but we can see 3 of them. And we have the pairs of hips right here. So we need to get the point on the girdle. Offset, through point, construction, first point we don't need. That's what established the width of our stone. Second one, here, both sides. Next one is in the middle, so we don't need that. We already have it. Use the girdle line to trim away, just to keep clear what these lines are referring to. Okay. So, polyline. Starting at the hip, going to the point, to the hip, to the point, hip, enter. The last information I need is the upper girdle facet dividing lines. Offset through point. And I can see 4 sets here, the other side, and here, and the other side. B enter for both sides. Click. These are once again strictly at the girdle. And I can draw them with a straight line tool. And that's finished. Okay, now we need to draw the pavilion of our stone. Our top view and our bottom view is actually quite a ways away from us. It's all the way up at the top. For the purposes of the drawing and to make things simpler, I'll just grab both of those, transform, rotate. I want to be copy equals no. Grab the end of those two lines where they come in together, the intersection between those two drawings, and type in 180. And that swings the bottom view around to where we can use it more readily. We have the same situation. We need to establish an elevation line here. Okay, so I'm going to bring down the hip of this main facet, because that represents the midline of this flat, long facet here. And where that intersects that plane in the front view, I will create an elevation construction line. Using intersect snap. And that gives me that line. Now you have to remember that in the top view, the closer things came to the center, the higher up they were. In the pavilion, the closer things are to the center, the farther down they are. Okay? So if we want to start at the girdle and work our way down, we have to start at the edge and work our way towards the center. At the girdle, though, we have all of our information. We have the points of the mains, because they meet the points of the upper girdle of the bezel facets. Remember, the mains and the bezels touch, so we already have that. And the dividing line on the upper girdle facets matches the dividing line on the lower girdle facets. So we have everything we need here. All we need is the information along the lower girdle. Along the lower elevation midline. So offset through point. We don't need that hip because I established that hip to give us the width, the elevation line. So that intersection is that. But we need this one and the same hip on the other side. And then drawing, starting at the girdle, we have this point dropping down to that hip. The rest follows along the pavilion, along the edge. So I'll keep going the other side, coming from the girdle down to the hip, down to the culet, from the hip up to the girdle where it meets the bezel facet, down to the elevation line to create the hip, and then all the way down to the culet. Enter. And the last one can be a single line. Oh no, can't. Made a mistake. Here to the point of the bezel facet, and then down to there, and we're finished. And our final lines will be our dividing lines for our lower girdle facets. One there, one there, one there, one there. And that completes our stone. Last thing we'll do is rotate these back around. Rotate where they meet, 180. And there's our completed drawing. And that's it for the tutorial on drawing.